What's up guys, welcome back. Today I want to show you what I found on my local classifieds for the square body build. I've been looking for a 14 bolt full float rear axle for this thing. I wanted to swap out that semi float. They're just weak, shitty. Parts are plenty for the corporate 14 bolt, so I wanted to swap one of those in there. So I went to look at this thing and here's what I found. This is out of the same year truck. This is an 85 that had a diesel in it, same transmission, transfer case, everything. I'm not sure what gear ratio it has, but I went to look at this thing. The guy was asking 250 bucks for it. So I went up there, checked it out. It was about an hour and a half away from my house. I noticed that it was still in the chassis, so I asked him, hey, do you have all the tools and stuff to remove it? Something to help me lift it in the back of my truck, all this stuff. Yeah, got everything. Went up there, made a deal with him, told him I'd give him 200 bucks for it. And he had just had shoulder surgery. Didn't have a way to get it off. It was sitting on this trailer in the back of his property. Have to move a bunch of stuff to get it. And it was just me and my kid. I didn't bring any tools because he said he had them. So I was just gonna leave it, head home. It was a shitty deal because hour and a half there, hour and a half back. So he mentioned, why don't you take all of it? Trailer and everything. So this is what I got. I ended up with this trailer. Yeah, it's a little rickety. Needs a new deck and everything. This is the frame out of the truck. But I think I scored pretty good because, one, I ended up with another trailer, and you can never have too many trailers. It came with the frame. There's a winch up there that was on it, and he had all the other parts and pieces that he ripped off of this thing on the trailer with it. So what I ended up with was the frame, the axle, a winch, all the wiring for the truck. I don't know if you'll be able to see this, it's a little dark over here, but a Cal induction fiberglass hood that he had sitting there. So I already threw that on the old square body. And then I took all the loose stuff that was sitting on the trailer, threw it in the back of my truck, and it's chock full of stuff. It's got new fenders for the trailer, a fuel injected fuel pump, some rotors, air conditioning box, light bezels off the truck, a battery tray, some exhaust piping. It has 6-inch front lift springs, came with it, a shackle flip, all sorts of stuff that I can use. And the stuff I don't use, I can just throw it back up for sale and get some of my money back. The best part is I only paid 500 bucks for all this. This dude, I asked him how much he wanted for it all. He hit me with 675 and I said, I'll give you 500 bucks. He didn't want to go that route, so we were gonna leave. He finally said, all right, take it, I want it out of here. So I ended up with all that stuff for 500 bucks. I had to run over the tire store. One of the tires on that trailer was pretty suspect. So I ran over, had a new tire thrown on just down the road from his house. There was another 100 bucks, 95 bucks, whatever it was. So all in all, 600 bucks. I ended up with all this stuff. I got a trailer out of it. I got the rear end I wanted. And I got a bunch of other parts and pieces that I can use on this build. The hood's worth what I paid for everything. Those hoods aren't too cheap. It seems like it's in pretty decent shape. I still need to get a couple bolts for the springs that hold the hood up, but I'll get going on that. But the reason for today's video is I want to get that axle off of that. Once Scretus and Scrotus get home, I'm going to get my boys out here and we're going to get that axle off of there because I want to get it prepped to paint. I know the last video we were painting the frame, so this is kind of double dutying, but I want to get this axle off of here so we can get it stripped down and clean under that truck so I can paint it all at once. So we're going to get going on that. We got this axle popped off, got it pressure washed off. I'm gonna hit it with a grinder, get it all cleaned up so we can do the same exact thing that we did on the frame. Hit it with that cleaner, etch it, and get it painted so it looks good so we can get it installed. We got this thing all cleaned up. Get it all dusted off with the grinder. Those wire wheels are nothing to mess with. My arms can't take any more of those wire shards coming at me. But I got this thing cleaned up. I didn't mess with the brakes because I'm planning on doing a disc brake conversion. Got it scrubbed with the cleaner. So it's just drying now. I'm gonna let this thing dry for a little bit longer out here. Then we're gonna throw this thing under the truck. Now I did pop off that cover and verify what gear ratio it was. It is a 4:10 ratio. I did notice there was 3 teeth on the ring gear that had some chunks out of them, which is a little concerning, but the pinion gear didn't look like there was any chunks out of it. I don't know if they had the cover off and dinged it up somehow, but there wasn't anything on the pinion gear, just on 3 teeth on the ring gear. So I'm going to run it like that for now. If it poses a problem, we'll obviously change it out, but the 410 gears are what I wanted because my plan with this truck is to lift it a little bit and put a little bit bigger tires on it. So I think those will be perfect. Factory, it has 373s in it. I'm going to let this thing dry a little bit.
The next day.
And the other day when we were cleaning the axle, it started pouring rain, so we were hustling. I didn't film a bunch, but we got the axle all painted, got the old one out, rolled out of here. Just got this sitting on the springs right now, but we got the old one out, this one in. I do have all the U-bolts and plates and stuff, so we're gonna get those, throw those on, get this thing bolted in for good, get that drive line attached, and then I gotta start figuring out the disc brake conversion on this thing and get the brake lines all tidied up so we're done back here. Okay, so we got that all buttoned up, got those U-bolts on, got that axle locked down nice, got them torqued down, and then I removed the factory brake line that runs up and across the top of that differential. Got it out of the way, so we're ready to rock and roll. I'm going with all new brake lines on the rear end of this thing once we go to the disc brake setup. So that's why I got rid of those. Then we got that drive line reattached, so we're good to go there. I may be pulling that off again in the future. I'm going to be lifting this thing a little bit and want to replace U-joints and stuff like that, so that'll probably be coming off again. But we got that project done for now. So next up, I'm going to be doing the rear disc brake conversion on this thing. There's a lot that goes into that, so I'll show you that. So I got all the parts and pieces here. We're going to kind of open them up, show you what we got, show you what we went with, and then get going on it. Best part is I got this little beauty helping me out today. She's gonna go for it and do one side of this. Hopefully she can maintain, keep up. But let's open this stuff up and I'll show you what we got. First up, I got all the brackets and brake lines and stuff like that from Off-Road Design. Now I know there's cheaper options out there for the brackets and stuff like that, but if you've ever had any Off-Road Design products, I don't doubt their engineering, their quality, anything like that. I'm perfectly fine paying a little bit more for quality products. From them, I got their disc brake conversion brake line kit that replaces all the brake lines that go up and over the axle out to the calipers themselves. So I got both of those. I got a new brake line that goes from the factory mounting point on the frame down to the distribution block that mounts right on top of the axle. I got this one a little bit long because I'm planning on lifting this thing a little bit in the future, so I want to be prepared for that. I got the longer lug studs. I know some applications you don't need them, but I'm not sure on what wheels I'm going with, and I'd rather do it now than later on. And it comes with hardware to mount the brackets to the axle. It comes with some spacers that go behind the brackets, some instructions, and then it comes with the brackets themselves. Now I did go with the Cadillac Eldorado calipers, so they have the provisions for a parking brake
because I didn't want to do a line lock. I wanted to keep the original parking brake on this thing, so I went with those Eldorado calipers. I got those, the pads, and the rotors. I got all that stuff at O'Reilly's. So we're going to get going on this thing. A few things before we start. There are some things that you need to make sure that you have. These don't come painted or powder coated, so we're going to prime these and get them painted. Let them start drying while we tear this thing apart. Second, make sure your fridge is full of cold beverages, because that's something that is highly necessary on a project like this. And third, make sure you got all the tools necessary. The only thing I don't have that's still on its way is the little brackets for the parking brake cable. I got those from Lugnut 4-wheel drive. Those should be here any day. I can get everything else done and put those on when they show up. So we're gonna get going on this thing. All right, now we're ready. We got the tires off. We got those brackets painted. I'm gonna kind of do one side, show her how to do this, and hopefully she can do it on the other side by herself. We'll see how that goes. But we're gonna start by pulling these axle shafts out, get the shaft out, and get this whole assembly off of here. So we got the first hub off. It came off relatively easy. I know I mentioned one of those hub sockets. That is mostly for retorquing this thing on. That's what I'm gonna use, but this one came off relatively easy. I'm gonna pull this backing plate off, and then me and the little lady are gonna jump to the other side, and I'm gonna let her do that. We got the whole passenger side torn apart. It's ready for new parts. As you can see, we got the old hub off and all the brake parts off of there. It was a little stubborn, but it came off. You have to kind of take apart some of the brakes to get it off, but we got it all off. So we're gonna jump to the other side, get pulling that thing off. Then we're gonna hit the new parts with a coat of paint so they can start drying. We'll get everything cleaned up, and then we'll start going back together. What are you doing? Just like this. Nuts. Not so close. Not so close. Let me do it. I know. Alright guys, I got these hubs all pounded off of those old drums. They're ready to go back on the new rotors, but I ran into a problem. One of the rotors that they ordered for me turned out to be a 6 lug instead of an 8 lug. Same part numbers, but they gave me one 8 lug and one 6 lug. I'll have to get that figured out, take that back, have them swap me out for an 8 lug. And then I do want to clean up these hubs a little bit. This one turned out to have a leaking seal. You can see all that stuff around it. So I'm going to replace the seals on both of these, make sure I don't have to worry about it. I did get one side on, got them all torqued down, ready to rock and roll. Throw a little paint on it, touch up the spots I didn't get when they were hanging over there. But I'm ready to roll as soon as I get the right rotor and some new seals.
The next day.
All right guys, it is a new day. I'm back out in the garage. Gonna hopefully try and get these brakes pretty much finished up today. So I'm gonna grab these brackets, get them installed, and start throwing this thing back together. Well, that one was a pain in the ass. That seal was in there. I had to chisel this thing, pry it out, and cut it up pretty much. Finally got it to pop out of there. So I'm gonna get this one cleaned up, get the other one cleaned up, and get them ready to go. I got one side all done, got the hub all redone, put a new bearing in it, new studs, got this thing ready to go back on. So I'm gonna get this thing going and finish her up. Okay guys, I got those brakes all installed. Let me show you what they look like. There's that off-road design bracket on the back side. I did use the Cadillac Eldorado calipers. The reason I use those is because they have the provisions for an emergency brake. Got those new studs installed, got everything on there. I also got these brake lines from Off-Road Design. They're kind of a flexible brake line, which is awesome. I got them thrown on there with a new longer brake line that comes up to where the original brake line mated. The reason I got a little bit longer one is because I'm planning on doing a little bit of a lift on this thing here in the future, so I wanted to be ready when I have that. But I got those all run across. I do have to get them tied to the axle a little bit. They have some hardware for that. The only issue I had was getting those wheel seals out. They were kind of a pain, but I got them both out. And then the inner bearing on that side, the cage on it was a little bit bent. I may have done it trying to get that seal out, but I got it replaced, so everything's good on here, everything's torqued down. So tomorrow I'm gonna see if I can round up some fittings for the factory brake lines on this, because when my kid was helping me take it off, he stripped the hell out of that one, so it's toast. And then I'm gonna get rid of this, whatever this is, this proportioning valve that went down to the factory axle for weight and stuff like that. I'm just gonna get rid of this altogether, just run brake lines straight into this factory location. Yeah, I know I've heard that sometimes you can have a little too much braking if you go direct, but I'd rather put a proportioning valve up front off the master cylinder and be able to dial it in how I want it, because these things cause problems 98% of the time. So I'm just gonna get rid of that whole thing. I'm just gonna go directly right into the Off-Road Design brake line. So I got a couple pieces of straight line. I've been fiddling with it a little bit. I bent this one up. I'm just gonna tie it directly into the factory line. So I did kind of a rough cut on those, and I'm gonna get those mated together. I got a bunch of random fittings from the Amazon, so I'm gonna see if I can make those work. I got a little bender. I still need to put diff fluid in this thing because I haven't done that. So I'm gonna open that up, get it all cleaned out, get some diff fluid in there, get all these parts and pieces on, maybe even get the wheels cleaned up and get them put back on. So I got a lot of stuff to do. Hopefully I can get her done tonight and finish this thing up. Hey guys, under here under the truck, I got that new brake line put in. Got it all tied in, tied back to the frame with the factory bolts. This is what I did with the brake lines. I just bent up those little tabs, cut off the little retaining part that was on there for the factory lines, and did these little clamps on there, bolted them on both sides. That doesn't look too bad. I think that'll give it enough play and keep it up and out of the way. Now, if you remember when I pulled the cover on this rear end to check what gearing it had, I mentioned that there was a few teeth that were chipped, and this is what I'm talking about. Like this one right here has a little bit of a chip out of it. This one right here has a little chip. There's like 3 or 4 of them that are like that. All the rest seem perfectly fine. I don't know if you'll be able to see in there, but that pinion gear, all the teeth on it look good. I spun it around, but I'm gonna keep an eye on that. It does look like there was a little bit of moisture in here. I don't know if you can see, there's a little bit of surface rust in there and some on the pan, but I'm gonna keep an eye on this. I'll clean it out good, throw some new gear oil in here, reseal it, run it like that for a little bit, and then pull it off, inspect it again, see if I hear any noises, see anything weird. Hopefully that oil slinging around will clean off some of that surface rust, because I don't know how long this was sitting before I got it. And then those brackets for the parking brake, I'm not sure what's up, if I got different calipers or what the deal is, but those brackets are supposed to bolt on right in here, and there's a big hole that goes over this, and it looks like there's supposed to be a hole here to screw it into. I'm not sure what the deal is. These calipers are for a 77 Eldorado, so I'm not sure what the deal is. This one I did notice has a little Allen screw in there right there. Don't know what that's for, but that one has it. This one doesn't, so I'm not sure. I may have to email them, see what the deal is. Maybe I got the wrong calipers, I don't know. So I'm gonna get this all cleaned up, get this sprayed out, get the cover cleaned up, get it full of gear oil, and then I gotta run and grab some brake fluid to throw in here, bleed these brakes, and hopefully I can wrap this up tonight. We got the rear end wrapped up, getting stuff cleaned up. Got a jug of brake fluid. We're gonna start bleeding these brakes, get the brakes all bled. Like I mentioned in the other video, occasionally it's handy to have a small human to help you out like this. Not all the time, but sometimes. So we're gonna get this cleaned up, fill this with brake fluid, get these brakes bled, get the wheels and tires back on. When I was in that rear end, I did notice after cleaning it out that some of those spider gears had some chunks missing out of them too. So who knows how long this thing will last. I may have to replace a bunch of stuff in that rear end, but we'll drive it till it gives up. Ew, it's crusty. Soaked up all the brake fluid. I'm gonna vacuum that a little bit, get a bunch of that stuff out of there. We'll give it one more wipe and then we'll put some fresh brake fluid in. Push it to the floor and hold it. Tell me when it's held. Pump it up. All right guys, we got her finished up. Got her back on her own tires and wheels. My kids scrubbed on these a little bit, got them a little bit cleaned up. Yeah, I know they're rusty. And what's the deal? Why does every square body Chevy that you find and buy have these wheels on it? It's like they went on a run in the late 80s, early 90s and put those wheels on everything. That guy must have made a killing. But we got everything wrapped up, got the brakes all bled, it's looking good, got the wheels back on. After seeing that stuff in the rear end, I did what a normal guy would do and fire this truck up that's not running on all cylinders and make sure there was no noise in it. Spun it for a little bit, make sure the brakes work, shooting flames out of the exhaust manifolds and all sorts of fun stuff. But we got it done. Stay tuned, because in the future, like I mentioned in a previous video, we're going to be swapping the engine on this thing because it has zero compression on one cylinder. It's toast. Luckily, I found a donor vehicle last weekend. Little sneak preview. I got an Escalade with a 6.0 LS in it, so we're going to be pulling that out, putting it in there. I'm not sure how soon that'll happen. I still got a lot of research to do on that because I've never done that before. But make sure you're subscribed, make sure you hit that thumbs up button, and we'll see you next time.